Jesus.
Hey guys, welcome to the Tabletop Hangout, episode 3, where me and my industry friends like to hang out, talk shop about what's going on in the industry and our lives. I'll be your host. I am Jonathan Phillips-Bradford of Eldritch Studios, and today with me this week we have...
Elizabeth Beckley. Hi guys. I'm a professional painter. I'm also that guy with the Mohawk's wife. A lot of you probably know that. I think that's all I have to say, right?
Yeah, that works.
Nailed it.
Hey guys, I'm Mocha. I'm a miniature painter and fairly new to the community, and happy to be here. How's it going?
Hi everybody, my name is Kevin. I am a game designer and various other, lots of things in the game industry stuff.
He's a Kevin.
Yeah.
He's a Kevin.
A wild Kevin appears.
Yeah, I'm so
Who's this
sorry.
guy?
Hey, my name's Heath. I am a concept artist in the industry. I've only been around for about 5 years now, but I'm actually planning on starting my own company and putting out my own minis. Woo!
And what is that company that you might want to let people know about?
No one gets to know. We're a secret. The name of the company is Red Panda Miniatures. We're actually planning on putting a Kickstarter out in June. Shameless self-promotion. They're really awesome. You guys should go check it out.
I agree with most of those words.
I was going to say he's going to put a miniature out based on the lizard sitting behind him.
And a platypus, lest he die.
All right. So normally at the beginning of the show, I like to everyone kind of get a chance to talk about what they've been up to lately, games they've played, things they've painted, conventions they've been to, and then later we can talk about Kickstarters we're excited about and so forth. So, Mocha, what have you been up to lately?
Yeah, gosh, still the allergy season. In the central time zone. I'm in Texas, and it's been really awful, so I'm still trying to get over the con crud that I caught at like South by Southwest, so it's like finally I still have that cough. But yeah, very recently been working on my Twilight Night soda pop miniature, my chibi, that I started with on Elizabeth's, I can't talk. By the way, I got braces yesterday, so I'm learning how to speak all over again. That's fun.
I'm still learning how to speak for the first time. It's okay.
It's harder than people think. Other than allergies, working on not only my Kingdom Death Twilight Night, my chibi Twilight Night, but buying a few more Kingdom Death miniatures that I probably should. That's what I've been painting recently.
We've all been there.
Yeah, I'm like, I should. No, still, I purchased it. Yeah.
So you said you went to
shipping.
South by Southwest before? That was the last con you went to?
Yeah, it's the last one I
How
went
is
to.
that? I've yet to be to that convention. So how is it compared? Is it mostly tabletop? Is it mostly video game? What's the vibe there?
It's an odd vibe. It's fairly new. So, South by Southwest has been around for a while, and they have a bunch of music festivals, a bunch of shows that go on. And at South by Southwest Gaming, I want to say is the second year that this has been around, and I helped out at the Reaper booth. They do the paint and take at Adepticon and PAX.
Yeah,
and,
they always have the best paint and take.
Yeah. So we did that at South by Southwest for the first time, and it was during spring break in Austin, so we got a lot of kids, and that was new to me. I went to PAX South, and it was not... it just,
Wasn't so young.
It's not really geared towards tiny children that can't even hold a paintbrush. And we had a lot of people in strollers. It was an interesting vibe. Of course, the Reaper people were super professional, and we had a really good time. And the tables were packed, and it was a really fast-paced environment. I did like that they had a lot of indie games to show off at
nice.
at the con. They had several different kind of convention center rooms that they had available. And I didn't get away from the booth too much just because we were so busy. But it was fairly new, but it was nice because we had a lot of indie games and local shops that came out that were supported and got to interact with the community.
Awesome. So is it the whole convention about tabletop, or is it kind of like PAX South where it's like video games and there's a tabletop section?
Oh yeah. It's the tabletop section was a lot smaller than the one at PAX South.
Okay.
I know at PAX South they kind of had where one side was PixelCon, as the tabletop people were calling it, that they had a bunch of kind of video game things set up and new demos that you could play. And then on the other side, they had all the tabletop games. They had places where you could compete, and it was pretty cool. But I want to say that South by Southwest was just it was very, very limited as far as the tabletop community was concerned. But it was nice that they were still represented and didn't get swamped by the video game presence.
Fair enough. But overall, a good experience?
Say that again?
Overall, a good experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was my first time at PAX South, and it was my first time at South by Southwest. So, I definitely go back, and this time I would bring money for the DX Racer chairs, because they were giving them away at the end. Like, we don't want to ship these back. I was like, oh, I wish I had a truck so I could just, pay you cash and put it in the back of my truck and take off, but alas, awesome. Not this year.
So how about you, Kevin? What have you been up to? Any new games you played or what you've been playing recently?
Not a whole lot. I did just start my second game of Pandemic Legacy with my brother and his wife and a friend of theirs.
I've been really wanting to play that. How is it? I've been really excited to play it.
If you like Pandemic, it's like the perfect Pandemic experience. It's super
I don't
strong.
know if I can rip up cards, though. I hear you have to rip up cards for it and put stuff on the board and...
Oh yeah, no, it's permanent, and just do it. I had this conversation with my girlfriend when we were playing, because she played in the first game that I played through, and then with my brother's wife in the second one, because right out of the gate, halfway through the first game, there's a card you have to tear up. And it is an emotional response to somebody at the table every time. There's just a serious no, but it's my card. I can't.
I paid money for
look,
that.
It's for reals. No. And then I'm like, yeah, there's people who are burning their game at the end of it, like some kind of effigy, when they completely
I don't know if I can
really use it anymore. It doesn't really work anymore.
I want to go to a Pokemon tournament and then take one of their foil cards, just rip it in half, and be like, "That's like Pandemic Legacy," and then just run away.
That's more like vandalism and destruction of property.
That's what'll happen to you.
And I highly recommend if you're sitting down to play and you convince the person who doesn't want to tear the card up. So my buddy Joey did this to my girlfriend. He finally we convinced her that she has to tear up. Not only are we going to tear up this first card, but she has to do it. And she's like, no, I'll take it away. We'll keep it. It'll go away. I'll keep it safe, like it's a rescue dog or something. No, it's fine. You just need to tear the card up. And the second she tears it in half, Joey wasn't paying attention on purpose the whole time, and she tears the card in half, and he goes, wait, what card was that? And the response was exactly what happened right there. The one person who's going to have an emotional response about destroying board components is not happy.
Oh, man. So you said you were playing your second playthrough. Does that mean you got to buy a whole new game of it?
Yep.
Oh, man.
How much is the base game? Do you know off the top of your head?
$70.
Genius marketing.
Yeah.
They turned a board game into a consumable product.
Yes.
But what is the point of, why do you have to destroy the cards? Can't you literally just put them someplace else?
You could, but I mean, half of the point is where things go, some of the stuff that you do. I don't want to spoil it, right? So all I can really say, without spoiling anything, is playing through the game is an experience, and once you get to the end of it, the journey is the point of the game. and you can undo all of that stuff, but it's kind of like you at that point you just have a copy of Pandemic, and you can't kind of like experience it again out of the same box. It just won't work. Plus, you put a bunch of stickers on things. And...
Yeah, because that was like what, because everyone's saying how great it is, but I was like, I don't want to buy a game and ruin it. That's like buying
it's not ruining it at all.
Belts the minis every time they die.
Sacrilege.
It's a super smart product, and if you use like the movie ticket price metric for like how much is my time of entertainment worth, like we played through the, so you're supposed to play once a month, or twice a month.
Or
There's
what
two
happens?
games,
Like
two games per month, right? And the first time I played through it, we did it in 3 sessions. So we played 24. I think we won twice. So we played 22 games of Pandemic across 3 sessions.
Wow. How long is
for 4 people, right? At $70 for 4 people, playing 22 games of Pandemic, we definitely got our dollars out of that product. Like,
yeah, definitely. That definitely sounds worth the money.
There's no way enough so that like we got a second one, right? So I don't feel bad about it at all, and I'm looking forward to the game that the guy's working on right now. That's going to be a legacy product from the ground up that I can't think of the name of. It's something or other, Discovery something. I don't remember. Anyways, you can find it online. Somebody will immediately comment and tell us what the thing is.
That's really interesting, and I'm wondering if more and more games are going to start doing that, where it's just like, here's the $70 experience, you enjoy it, and then it's done. And then if you really like it, you get to buy it again and do it all over again, and it's different every time you play it.
Kind of different, yeah. But
I can already see rebranding it like, oh, it's not a board game, it's an experience.
Right.
Well, but there's a place that those things work, and there's a place that they don't, right? Like, I actually think the product model is really strong, but really hard, because if you miss the mark and you make a crappy game, you're done.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to give you a second chance. Like, it needs to be good. It needs to have that crunch. The satisfaction needs to be there at the end, where your players were like,
addiction.
like, yes, this was totally worth it. I'm glad I went through that hell and I tore those cards up, and I'm glad they're dead. Like,
It's kind of like the Skylanders of board gaming. Like,
exactly.
You have to keep buying it to keep playing it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm working on 2 or 3 right now to not like working on, but building sort of concepts for things. And the more and more I think about it, the more and more I think that type of product model, even as a secondary product to your core product, is going to become a lot more prevalent in the marketplace over the next year or 2. And I'm happy.
That's really interesting, because I think Pandemic Legacy is the first one of its kind, isn't it?
Risk Legacy was the first.
Oh, okay.
But Risk Legacy changed the product permanently, but Pandemic Legacy has a narrative. So it's the first. It's the first that does the sort of like tells a story.
Just wait. There's gonna be miniature board games where you have to burn your miniatures.
I can
Just take out a hammer and smash
it.
2017.
Yeah.
Watch them melt.
Oh, did your character lose a leg? Go ahead and cut that leg off.
Cut that shit off.
Just
get like passed around the clippers.
Dude, knowing my luck with
nasty.
minis, that would just already have occurred. It's like, all right, it's already in 5 pieces. I'll just rip this one off again. Great.
Time for some conversions.
well, it's one of the things.
Kingdom Death being much like that, like. Because terrible things happen to your characters constantly in that game anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, now you lose a limb. Instead of getting to glue on more pieces of armor, you get to cut it off.
So what about the one that's like you're, kicked in the groin and you suffer the, shame of not wanting to live again? Like, what do you do to your mini at that point,
You're supposed to just build new
You kick your
miniatures.
miniature in the groin.
That injury's on the inside.
Take them and punt it into the corner.
It's just a nice little flick to the miniature groin.
Well, the game supplies you with so many sprues of miniatures, and I told Jonathan, I'm like, we're not putting all of these together. There's so many.
I almost want to take all the Kingdom of Death parts and make my own monster out of all the little parts of extra parts we're going to use.
No.
It'll look like a Kingdom Death monster.
It would.
Yeah.
I could be Adam Boots. Yep. I can glue a bunch of left hands together.
I know, Coolman, you're not.
What would you call that monster? A blunt? What? Blunderpuss? What was
Yeah.
that?
Bumblepuss.
No, that one's
Bumblepuss, thank you.
There is the
and a
Bumblepuss.
bee and an octopus and a bunny rabbit. That is, it's a bee.
That
And
thing would die.
Yeah.
Wherever it's supposed to live, it's not going to.
or it is the alpha apex predator.
Game twist.
You're like, look at the happy bumblepuss as it consumes and eats the villagers.
But does he doesn't have a beak like an octopus?
Intimidating
Under
the
the tentacles?
people.
No, but it does have a stinger that's like the size of my thumb. Like,
Oh, that's fair.
All right, let's admit to ourselves, if the Bumblepuss came at us in great numbers and with much speed, it
I
would
would
be
pee myself a lot.
it would be terrifying. It's a giant
It's
flying
one of
octopus.
those, you just have to run faster than the guy behind you. That's
it's
all.
got 8 arms with which to hold on to you while it stings you to death.
So I don't think you've looked at me very well in person. I'm kind of a round guy. I'm not the fastest of runners out of all my friends.
See, but
gotta
you're a big
scratch.
dude. You can take a lot of Bumblepuss stings before you go down.
That's true.
You were at least 3 Bumblepuss stings until you die.
I'm really like
He's
extremely
hardly
swollen.
one. It'll sting right through him.
Oh, I'm
Come up
thicker
the
than a
back.
thumb. Oh, that sounds terrible.
Phrasing.
Anyways,
The other thing I have going on after that madness is Kingdom Con next weekend,
woo!
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy.
which will be all of the winning.
It's gonna
Hey,
be
look.
so much fun.
Kingdom Con shirt you can't see because it's purple.
Yeah, I can't. Ross Kevin.
hold it up
is what I
again.
call it. Show us your boobs, Kevin.
There we go.
It's the opposite
Yeah.
of that.
Beads.
It's the shirt you want to see. Like,
No, that's not what I
you're
want.
bad at this game.
That's not what
This year is so we do colors every year, which makes the photography easier to figure out what year they're from.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
nice.
cool.
That's a good
It's
idea.
recently discovered again. So this was 2 years ago, which was purple, and then last year was red. Or no, I have that backwards. 2 years ago was red, last year was purple, and this year's pink
Nice.
for our color. And the shirt looks awesome. You can see
Yeah,
the
I'll
logo.
be there filming.
It's
I'm
up on the
excited.
top of the Facebook page. You should check it out. If you're in the Southern California area and or like buying airfare on short notice, come to Kingdom Come.
And while
We
you're
heard
there,
Ross talk about Kingdom Con a good bit last show. I want
We
you
did.
to, for someone who's unaware of what Kingdom Con is about or what to expect, what's the selling points of Kingdom Con? Come here and do what?
Kevin mentioned the painting classes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't bring up the painting classes. So basically, we are a show where people get together and play games for 4 days. I mean, whatever you want to play. We're about 60% miniatures, 40% all of the other things. We have a very dedicated group of people who play RPGs all weekend. We have another very dedicated groups of people who play miniatures all weekend. We are rolling out a bunch of hobby classes for the first time this year, which we're super excited about.
Yeah.
We have the largest, to my knowledge anyways, the largest Drunk Quest tournament on Saturday night.
Ross did show me some videos of the Drunk Quest tournament. That's pretty entertaining.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it's great fun. It's just a room of 200 people drinking quickly.
Oh, you know.
No big deal.
I was
So-
curious, so the rules of
Like a
Drunk
wedding.
Quest, do you have to be drinking the same type of beverage?
No, it
Like,
doesn't
if I'm drinking whiskey and you're drinking beer, how's that not cheating?
matter. There's rules for how to measure those things.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Like liquor counts as more drinks per second, right? So it basically, I think it's 4 to 1.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
Based on
roughly.
like the height, or is like the body
It's a
type come into
count,
play?
right? So if you had to drink like it's kind of like Munchkin, where you need to get a certain value to kill the monsters, and
Ah,
X
okay.
points wins the game. But to kill the monster, instead of like dice or abilities or whatever, you're taking drinks. So it's a count of like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that would be 4 drinks.
The only monster you're killing there are your brain cells.
And livers.
Possibly your liver.
Yeah.
It'll bounce back. You'll be fine.
But the expansion that Jason put out off his last Kickstarter, I believe it was the Porcelain Gods, which was the designated driver expansion. So it allows for a player to not be drinking at the table and screw with the rest of the players.
Oh,
As-
that sounds like fun.
as the various porcelain deities.
I want to be that guy. That sounds awesome.
So yeah, I think. Well, and I love the art and the product all around is really strong. Like Drunk Quest is great. But anyways, yeah, I mean, Kingdom Con is all about getting together, having a good time, and playing games for 4 days, and hanging out with friends, making new friends, and
It sounds awesome. It's gonna be my first year going, and I'm super excited.
I'm really jealous. I wanted to go so bad.
I'm,
Go.
Unless I like really expensive airfare and have time.
Well, yeah, those two things. Or start driving now.
Right, yeah. Get in the car yesterday.
You got time.
Depends, you'll be fine.
I know somebody who's got a suite. It's Elizabeth and Jonathan.
Thanks for hooking us up, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's so exciting.
Well, Caleb
We're
had to sleep.
super excited. Because I believe I'll be running around with WGC doing like interviews with all the different vendors, which should be interesting to see what everyone's got going on to release after the show, to see what everyone's newest news, as you would. And then also I think we'll be making a Kingdom Con marketing trailer to show off for next year to advertise the convention a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then Ross was talking about something he just realized, that Kingdom Con is the last big convention to have the Privateer Press War Machines rules before they change.
I believe it is. Yeah, the last
tournament, big tournament.
The last major tournament, because we're the largest tournament on the West Coast for War Machine and Hordes that isn't Lock and Load.
Gotcha.
Which is Privateer Press's convention. So I mean, that would be a coup if we managed to pull that off somehow.
So we're talking about maybe making some video to highlight the last tournament with the last rule set, and maybe why people have loved this, what people are looking forward to with the new rules, stuff like that.
A little send-off tribute video.
Yeah, like thank you, Privateer.
Well, and Privateer's always been a big part of the con.
Yeah.
Like it's always been one of our major events, or the major event, depending on how you want to measure things. So
maybe it will be the first con I actually get to play Privateer Press, and then I won't get to. And everything I learned won't matter anymore. Because
it's a good time. It's good to get it in, get that experience in right before it doesn't matter anymore. I find that to be the best way.
That way, if the new rules are any different at all, you have full reign to complain about them.
My buddy Curtis was telling me their new rule set, like what they're getting in new starter packs, is insanely awesome, because it was like a starter set of army. You get a playmat and dice and measuring sticks and a whole bunch of stuff for I think like $50, which is really surprising.
I want to say it was less than 50, but
Mocha,
I'd have to go.
are you okay?
Don't die.
Yes,
Don't die,
I'm
Mocha.
coughing. I'm good. I'm good.
Dying on the job is a terminatable offense.
Yeah, the new Privateer Press stuff is really exciting. I'm interested to see what they do with it.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting adventure. They have a lot of expectations to manage over the next couple of months.
Yeah, that's true, and I'm sure there's a lot of hype going around. So we can all keep our fingers crossed that it lives up to the standard and hype that it's going for.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you, Elizabeth?
Well, since we were just talking about Kingdom Con, I will talk about hobby classes. I'm super excited. I get to teach classes with Aaron Lovejoy and Caleb Weisenbeck this year. I think it's the first time they've held hobby classes at Kingdom Con, right, Kevin?
Yeah, this is the first year. We've wanted to for years, but Aaron was always heading that up and ended up having to go to other shows or George R. R. Martin's house or something stupid.
Yeah, I know.
So, what
yeah, so it never worked out for a while, and then the timing has finally come together, and here we are.
Yeah, and it's going to be super awesome. I think we kept it intimate, no more than 10 people per class. I don't even know if our classes will fill up. I hope they will. But we're teaching everything from chibis. I know Aaron teaches some blending classes, and Caleb teaches airbrushing classes. So I really hope we're going to have a good time. I know we will. I shouldn't say hope.
I'm sure it's going to be fun. And it's nice that there is levels of classes from beginner all the way to expert, so anybody can jump in and learn a technique that they haven't learned before.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've taken one of Elizabeth's classes before, and I had a freaking
They're
blast.
garbage.
So.
They're just garbage
Yeah.
classes.
No. Don't make it fun.
I like how you said yes before.
I'm like, yeah, no, yes. Oh, wait. Yes, no. There you go.
I learned how to keep eyes on TV. It was terrible.
Getting that computer, guys. No, it was awesome. It really was.
Yeah. And I mean, like, speaking of, keeping the classes, the classes being awesome and stuff, I mean, I like to keep my classes small, so I can walk around and help everybody out, That's just how I like to teach. So, and I think it's worked out pretty well. I mean, I've done so many classes since the start of the year. It's just been crazy. I had my first master class in Montreal. That was fantastic. I think this is my last run of classes. I don't teach classes at Gen Con. Dragon Con, that's right. Dragon Con this year for paint and take. And then we are doing where you can come sit down and take classes, really informal.
It's more like a workshop than a class.
Yeah, it's like
you
a
can come
workshop.
hang out with me while I paint, and I'll tell you what I'm doing.
Yeah.
The Fort Wapple of painting class.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's kind of what the Dragon Con painting area has become, is a Fort Wapple.
It's great.
It's a strong method I distinctly approve of.
Just once per show, we should always bring up Fort Wapple.
I think Fort Wapple is going to live in our hearts forever. It's never going away.
Yeah. Right about the time we start to forget about it, it'll be Adepticon next year, and then we will be in anew.
We'll all be there exhausted.
We're making a sign. That's going to happen.
Yes, I think we should
Wapple,
have Archie Dan to make a giant laser
he's
sign.
designing a sign for me already.
Oh,
That's
that's
gonna happen.
awesome.
That's awesome.
See, I still.
And then we'll make Justin weather it up, so it'll be like this great
Like
weathered
old school
monstrosity.
sponge hanging out.
I remember for the longest time Heath thought we kept saying Fort Waffle.
So-
Zero areas were talking
I
about
love
James Waffle.
waffles, guys.
So I imagine this giant banner of a kid's fortress made out of building blocks, but it's waffles. And then I'm now imagining Justin painting a bunch of rust textures on these Eggo waffles, and then that being a fortress. It'd be the best thing ever.
And then have James and Kathy standing above it with forks.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
I'll have
sure that needs
Justin.
to be
I'll have
like
Justin add that to
headers.
his cue for his new painting tutorial thing.
He's not busy enough. He really does need some stuff to do. I think he'll.
It's true.
He needs to get a job.
Yeah. God.
Or at least get a project on his desk.
God, Justin.
Paints
You don't
55
even
models a
listen to
day
the show.
or
We're
something
talking
stupid.
The laziest man in the business.
Oh no, this is going to become a thing.
Well, it's like Kevin being sunshine and rainbows.
Yes, Kevin.
So
Kevin
lies
is the
then, just
silver,
abundant
silver lining,
lies.
the silver lining of life.
Silver lining Kevin.
Yep, and Brian being the one-man fan club for Aquaman.
Well, that's just true.
Oh, that's
That
sweet.
is true.
I was actually having a debate over Facebook this week about Aquaman versus Namor.
You're wrong,
He
by the
started
way.
it.
I have to agree with Brian on that. As lame as Aquaman is, Namor is just lamer.
I disagree. I think Namor's way more interesting of a person than Aquaman. Namor will come up and steal your wife and sleep with them.
That makes them more interesting? You have weird friends.
As a superhero, it's a more interesting thing for a superhero. Like Hank Pym's the terrible things that superheroes do make them more interesting.
Is that like Super Fight? Abraham Lincoln on a bear who sleeps with your wife. You know.
How do you even
Like to do
combat that? What do you even do with sleeps with your wife's superpower?
Doesn't matter if you destroyed me. I banged your wife.
Your wife has
I've won the
ninjutsu
moral victory
clone.
at all times.
I put a bun in that oven. Deal with it.
This conversation got weird.
Well, like everybody's like,
I'm uncomfortable now. Look, miniatures.
that's when you open the red deck. Yeah.
I have that, but I choose not to play on the show. Just in
On the
case.
show.
Oh, you do? Yeah. We actually played that this weekend. We had some friends in town. It got interesting.
It's one of my favorite games.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So let's see, where was I? I know you guys.
Sorry to derail you.
No. That's the whole point of this podcast.
To derail Liz.
Yes, to derail. It's okay. I was gonna say you guys always talk about playing games. I love playing games, but I spend most of my time painting miniatures, even my free time. I think sometimes Jonathan gets a little lonely. I'm sorry, Jonathan. But
You know, it's like how
I was
they call them football widows because the husband just watches football all the time. I'm a miniature widower, or whatever the word is.
Nice.
Where I don't get to see my wife because she's in her room painting. I'm like, hey, how's it going? She's like, I'm playing.
just like that
just
too.
like that.
And that's when I come in, I grab the miniature, and I put it in my mouth, and I walk away.
He tried to do that with my star bust. Yeah.
That's a big model to put in your mouth.
Bad form. Yeah, that's awkward. We'll just avoid that.
Quite the rack to fill at once.
So yes. What happened?
So I paint miniatures, and I think the big hot topic miniature is the scar bust. Everybody's painting that. I just finished mine up. I actually screen share with you guys. Let's see.
I'd love to see it.
I'm gonna judge it so hard.
Let me know if you guys. I don't usually. Let's see. Desktop. I'm really bad with this sort of thing. Start screen share. There's Mocha.
I'm sorry, no.
Infinity view.
So can you guys see it? I don't know. Can you guys see it?
Just keep talking.
Yeah.
Only when we shut up.
Nice.
So that's I finished that, and I took professional photos. And I plan on submitting it into the No Quarter magazine. Because they're having a competition by the 24th. So that'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to that.
It's strong.
It's
a good model too.
It's just so terrible.
I know. How do I undo screen share now? It's like you were screen sharing.
There you go.
Am I good? There we go.
Way to technology.
So that's what I was working on when I came back from Adepticon. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun.
What competitions are you painting for right now?
Let's see. I am painting. Obviously, I finished my scar bust. The Draconic Awards next week at Kingdom Con. That'll be fun. I'm trying to beat Caleb. I'm coming for you, Caleb.
Dun, dun, dun.
Who's judging?
Actually, I think it'll probably come down to Caleb, Aaron, and I. And what they do is we just can't judge our own piece.
Sure.
So that's how they do that. So
I'll come judge you guys' pieces against each other. Just
like, this is crap. This is crap.
It'll be the internal award between Aaron, Liz, and Caleb.
We'll make shy places with Caleb.
Accepting bribes now.
I offer up my husband.
As a punishment? No. Just kidding. Sorry, Jonathan. And all of a sudden, Mocha goes away. Oh, sorry, we lost you.
She's in Texas. I think it exploded. What happens there?
Underwater. Oh.
I like that you guys were just all quiet, though. Like, I was like, I thought that would be funny. I wasn't sure.
No, we all just hardcore thought about how I'd be offered away.
I was trying to decide if I liked that bribe or not. Like, is that my for or against this bribe?
60, we have 60.
Like, Jonathan do some dishes or
take the $60.
$60.
He can take pictures and stuff, so that's cool.
Jonathan, do you remember when we were doing game night in a can, and then you made the sale for the Fat Kid Emporium?
I did.
Oh, it was epic. You went on this tirade. Like, one of the things you had to do a bad infomercial, and Jonathan made one up for, like, getting a fat kid as a best friend. So he started on this, like, come on down to the Fat Kid Emporium, where you'll get your best fat kid friend. And the whole time we were cackling because it was so damn funny.
That was good times. Yeah, because it was one. If you haven't played Game Night in a Can, it's become one of my my favorite party game, hands down, is there's a bunch of just tons of mini games on these discs. You can flip them over and you play the mini game. Whoever wins gets to. It's kind of like Cards Against Humanity. It doesn't really matter who really wins. You just kind of play it all night to have fun. But one of the games was you had to make an infomercial and sell a product of something that's in the house. And you spin a dial, and whatever the dial points to, you have to sell. Well, I spun my dial, and it just pointed right at me. So I decided to sell Jonathan's Fat Kid Emporium, where you can come buy yourself a fat kid friend, because everybody needs a fat kid in their life.
See,
that game's really fun.
Yeah.
I just imagine this inflatable, flailing tube man, but it's like a fat kid. Just not really moving that much, just the arms are
You
waving.
like put it in your like passenger seat so you can drive in the HOV lane. It's okay, I've got a fat kid.
Officer, I know I'm in the HOV lane, but as you can see, I have a fat kid.
It's okay, sir. It's okay. You have a fat kid. I understand.
It's like a reverse.
Your fat kid's like, want a donut?
I think
bad cups everywhere.
I was going to say, Jonathan, that game's been a hit everywhere we've gone, hasn't it? Every like different group.
Yeah, and we've been sharing pictures, or Elizabeth was sharing pictures on Instagram and tagging it, and they've actually used the images from us playing in their Amazon sales. Like when you go to Amazon for the game, you can see pictures of Elizabeth, Heath, and Heath's girlfriend Rebecca all making fake paper masks and wearing them.
Creepy Peepers.
Oh, funny.
There's another game called Creepy Peepers where you literally have to draw a face and cut out the eye holes, and whoever makes the funniest face wins.
Sounds awesome.
So of course when I played, I just made a giant penis with testicles, and I cut out the testicles for eyes.
So proud of you right now.
I know.
That's Jonathan. He's really a dickhead, you know?
True story.
All right, that's
Relevant.
I'll be real careful with the next one.
True story. Yeah, I'll definitely be bringing Game Night in a Can to Kingdom Con for everyone to play. It is a blast. All you really need in that game is just scrap paper and pencils, and you like make paper airplanes and make masks and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, spinny!
Awesome.
You remember the game where we spun around in a circle and then we had to take a ball of paper in both of our hands and throw it in the actual game can? It's shockingly impossible. And then, of course, Liz goes up and does it, and then like nails both of them into the can and falls over while she's doing it. We're just sitting there like, all right, cool, whatever. Just oddly good at throwing paper balls and cans, I guess.
Winner is you. We will definitely have to play Dungeon Fighter. Dungeon Fighter is one of my favorite Kingdom Con games because everybody scoffs at it and then they play it for an hour.
I've never played Dungeon Fighter.
Dungeon Fighter is the #1 dice throwing game on the market.
I don't know. What about Pass the Pigs? Is that considered a dice throwing game?
Pass the Pigs is considered torture in many countries because it's garbage.
It is the best game.
I will actually stab you in the face
He
It is
just
the
doesn't
best.
like it
with
'cause we
one
had
of those
a-
stupid pigs.
You got to respect a double snouter. Come on.
Yeah.
No,
Winning
you
Jowlers.
don't have to respect anything that happens in Pass the Pigs because it's A, random, and B, stupid.
So
Kevin,
a few years ago, we were at
Sounds like
Origins.
a
Right?
loser to me.
A few years ago, we were at Origins, and Jared Saunders was an employee at was it
Geek Chic.
Geek Chic? That's what. Kevin wanted to say Geek and Sundry. Geek Chic, and they invited us to come play on their Geek Chic table with them and their employees, and come play on a super nice gaming table. And we were with
And they
Cool
play
Mini at
Pass the
time.
Pigs.
Yeah, so we busted out Past the Pigs. And we had the best time ever. Then we played some other games, and after the other game, we're like, can we just go back to playing Past the Pigs?
See, Pass the Pigs, aside from being stupid, is also old and dumb.
But
You
Kevin,
cannot diss Huck and the Hogs.
No, I can. I just did.
it's because we just wanted to roll your sheep when we played Angry Sheep.
Which you can.
No, that's
There's
why
an actual game.
That's why you hate Past the Pigs.
To my credit, I hated Pass the Pigs before we made Angry Sheep.
I remember when you showed me Angry Sheep, and the first thing I did, I was like, oh, do I roll the sheep? And you, like, wanted to kill me.
Yeah. Duh.
Angry Sheep is a very fun game, but I have it so ingrained in my head when I have little animals that I just want to roll them because of Pass the Pigs.
It's because it's terrible.
And that's why I should
It's
never
the cocaine
own a
they put in the
hamster.
box.
I should never own a hamster because I would just try to roll the hamster.
Oh, that's just
I got
bad.
2 little hamsters and I got a double snouter. I mean, just once because they were dead. That's why Jonathan's not allowed pets he can touch anymore.
This game's terrible. Both of them died, and then I got bit in the process. I hate this.
I think I won, though. Did I win?
With Angry Sheep? Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
Mr. Foley, what have you been up to? BA Foley over here.
Oh, BA Foley. Doesn't stand for what you think, but I'm not going to explain what it stands for. I'm going to leave that a mystery. Ask Jason. No, he'll tell you. What have I been up to recently? Drawing an absolute crap ton of things. I actually had a little slowdown in this industry recently because I was tackling a big project that ended up kind of falling through. But since then, I've been kind of building back up my freelance work, and it has been going shockingly well recently. Got a couple of old clients coming back to me with some work. The guys from Anvilate Games who put out Ethereum, a very fun board game with an interesting mechanic where you can actually move around the board pieces. I designed like 95% of their character designs for it. And they're actually coming back to me to get some new stuff that's very exciting. I think they just had their Kickstarter go through for their Japanese-themed robot expansion, the
Oh, yeah,
Ikaru.
those guys look cool.
Yeah, and the minis are really pretty. It's kind of sad from a concept artist standpoint when you design something and you're like, yeah, this looks awesome, and then you see the mini of it and you're like, damn it, they sculpted it better than I drew it. Which also reminds me of when Jonathan very subtly said, hey, Heath, how does it feel that my wife can paint minis better than you can draw them? I was like, son of a...
The answer is,
Great. Why do you ask?
it feels
I'm a
good.
jerk. I'm just a jerk.
Well, she has won multiple awards for it, and I haven't.
I don't think there's any concept artist awards.
No, because it'd be won by like 3 guys. It'd be like Brom, Adrian Smith, and Wayne Reynolds.
Brom hasn't worked in this industry in your lifetime.
Brom?
What was the
Well,
last
Dark
thing he
Age.
actually did? He doesn't draw for it.
That's
That
true.
art was all done in the 80s
That's very true.
True. Yeah,
for a
I'll
different
say,
product.
I actually got replaced on that product at one point or another. I was doing an illustration. They're like, here's a cancellation check. You're fine. And then suddenly I was like, well, who replaced me? It's like, oh, we replaced it with a Brom piece. And I was like, I can't get mad. All right, great. Besides that, as I said at the beginning, I'm starting my own little miniature company called Red Panda Miniatures. I've been in the industry for about 5.5 years now with something like 500 plus designs under my belt. So I kind of had a moment where I was like, why don't I design and put out my own minis? So I decided to go for it. And actually the response I've been getting about the minis I've been putting together have been awesome. I'm trying to think. This is the biggest challenge, is trying to figure out how to actually describe them to people.
I like describing them because they're cartoony, but they're not exactly chibi. I realize that it's kind of like if you took Looney Tunes and mixed with Sonic the Hedgehog. Very 90s cartoon art in a way.
Redwall.
Yeah.
Oh,
Take-
yeah.
Redwall is still not quite Redwall. Redwall's a little bit more harder fantasy with the way it's drawn.
That's true.
Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah.
But fantasy and adorable and fun and everything I've ever wanted out of a mini. But yeah, I'm going to be completely egotistical there. I'm literally designing minis that I've wanted to have as minis in a board game that haven't existed. I've had something like 10 years worth of designs on these things stuck in my head that I had nothing I could do with them. I tried a children's book, tried a webcomic, I tried 4 or 5 different other things, but I was like, wait, I know sculptors, I know painters, I know how to draw things, make minis. So yeah, I'm actually trying to put together a Kickstarter in June to help support and fund this line. And yeah, I'm getting really hyped up about it. But besides that as well, what else have I been up to? Oh yeah, drawing a bunch of stuff for Soda Pop. So,
Woo!
Yeah.
woo! It's a nice change of pace because I've drawn so many giant fanged demons and scantily clad women stabbing each other to death and giving each other tetanus. Or things that just are like vomiting pus and blood and nightmares, and it's like, this is fun to draw, but it kind of gets in your head eventually. So then suddenly, when Soda Pop was like, "Yeah, sure, we'll throw a couple of projects at you," I'm like, "Wait, cute, adorable anime things? What?" Drawing chibi is way too damn fun, and surprisingly challenging, especially again after you're drawing tetanus lady murdering demons all day long. Drawing something cute and adorable, like it gets in your head. I drew some scene, and I had to actually keel back on the amount of violence I put into the scene because I was like, "Oh wait, kids will see this." Yeah. Like I think I was doing something for the new thing they just had the Kickstarter for. What's the name of it?
Rail Raiders.
Rail Raiders.
Rail Raiders. There you go. I'm a terrible, terrible concept artist. I can't remember the name of half anything. But yeah, with Rail Raiders, there was one scene where literally, like, I had a character ripping out the eyeball of one of the law bots and staring at it like it was loot. And there was like a bunch of oil and robot guts hanging out, and I was like, maybe a little too much. I don't know. Of course, they're great as a client. He's like, "All right, good. We're gonna make it happen." And I was like, "Okay, fine. Let's do this." Awesome.
Got there.
I'm on board. Well, I have other clients that I've worked with in the past. Anytime any client ever tells me, like, "Oh, just design something and we'll turn it into a miniature," I'm like, "You're making a mistake because I'm insane."
Do you know what goes on in my head?
Yeah.
Also, you can draw anything. That does not mean you can make it into a miniature. Like
Yeah.
drawing a thing on a piece of paper, you can draw anything. Literally. That doesn't mean you can make it into something you can produce.
Yeah,
Just-
he
That's
figured that
actually
out.
an interesting statement, true, because this is something you could talk about, Heath, because it's something you had to learn from going from
Yeah.
a concept artist, from making the concept to realizing
Mm-hmm.
the way you have to draw something doesn't always work for the way you want it sculpted.
That was my biggest problem in my first year working in this industry, was realizing, like, oh, how do things actually get produced in this industry, or how things actually get molded or sculpted or posed, how base contact works.
Yeah.
Oh my God, all of that. Like, that's especially, I'm still learning now with my own company that I'm starting up. I've been doing these fun designs, and they're all in like action poses, and it's all dynamic and stuff. And then I'm like, wait a minute.
It's going to be
I
a
have to get
14-piece model.
Yep.
And
Like-
it's only this big. I may have missed the mark.
Hey, I made this new Malifaux mini. It's got 14 pieces. Have fun gluing it together.
7 of them are whiskers.
Well, especially when they're all animal characters, I'm like, oh my God, they all have tails. Why did I choose that they all had tails?
Plus 1 part.
So, God, there's an amazing amount of cuts on these things. So it's a learning process.
Well,
yeah,
like when I've done art direction for miniatures and things like that over the years, one of my favorite questions with the new artist to ever hear the artist ask me is, what are these going to be produced in? Because it means they know what's going on. Because I've worked with a lot of 3D artists coming from video game backgrounds, moving to miniature stuff, and they have the know-how to build the model and to chop the model and to do all the prep work and stuff, and that's great. But they don't understand the manufacturing process at all. So they don't know. You're like, it can't have any undercuts, and they're like, that's cool. What's that? You're like,
Oh my
It means the model's going to be made in steel, and it has to come out, and steel doesn't bend.
No.
So think about that. Or the model's going to be made in resin, and it does bend some. Or it'll be made in metal, and it bends a lot.
Well,
Yeah.
I had a new lesson kick into gear recently where I had a character designed where it had a shoulder guard that was like a flat plane, and then it came out in 2 angles, and there were spikes coming directly out of the top and the sides.
Oh yeah, you can't have that.
Yeah, I realized that very quickly. I was like, wait, what? Wait.
Nope.
Oh, God.
You don't get this and this. You can't have both.
I literally, like, after I got the sculpt done and I finished the concept art, I was like, yeah, I showed it to my caster, and my caster was just like, why? Do you
Like,
hate
no.
us? Why? This isn't happening.
No.
Deal with it.
Unless it's one line. You can get away with one line if it's going to be flat.
Mm-hmm.
Because then, they're all pointed up.
So it's probably interesting for some people who haven't worked in the industry or thinking about trying to start a miniatures line or wanting to get an industry, that there's several steps to take to getting a miniature done, especially for a game.
Mm-hmm.
You start with the art director who tells the general idea, then you go to the concept artist, and then back and forth there. But then you have to go to the sculptor, and
You do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just put it this way. It will be misconstrued every single step of the way somehow. If you get something from the brief to the sculpt that actually looks anywhere half as good as what you had in your mind, it's a miracle.
And then you also have, Elizabeth was talking to Heath about certain parts of the model. She was like, well, don't do textures and stuff like that because a painter doesn't want to paint. Well, you can talk about it. You know better what you were saying than I know.
Oh, well, I was saying that I actually ran into this when I was painting the Arcadia Quest models for Cool Mini. The older things that they sculpted didn't have texture like on the cloaks and stuff, and so painting studio models was fantastic because I could paint in the texture. And then later on, they were putting texture in the hair and in the clothes, and it was really hard to paint high quality on that without it looking semi-okay. I can see why they would do it from a gaming standpoint because you can wash your model and you have this great miniature with all this texture, but from a painting aspect, it's not good. At least for me.
Kind of like having the textures limits what can be done with the paint. But the double-edged sword of that is it's easier for someone who doesn't want to paint a studio, wants it to quick and easy look good on the table.
Right.
As a game component, more detail is better. As a miniature, more detail is still better, but if you want to use that miniature for high-level painting, you now have to paint all of that detail, and that increases. Doing a studio job, it makes it almost impossible because you're on a clock, right? You're like,
right.
I had to paint 3 of these models this week. Thank
Right.
goodness you added all that texture for me to have to paint, you jerk.
Right, and I'm sure Mocha, have you ever run into anything like that when you paint? I mean, that really drives you nuts.
Usually with, when they try to do brocade or maybe there's, some sculpting elements that they try to do this raised, maybe like a sleeve, trying to paint that in, and maybe the model wasn't as, there might have been some mold lines. So you try to clean it up, but at the same time, if you clean it up, you're going to ruin that texture.
Right.
And then it's not going to be consistent throughout the miniature. I've run into that, and that's a little frustrating.
Yeah, definitely.
Then you can just fudge it, and you're like, good enough.
And then you put a bird over that spot because now
Put
he's
a bird on
your
it.
friend.
So anytime I see any of Kevin's armies and they said random bird friends, I'm like, oh, you screwed up that
I
model.
don't paint models.
It's true.
I haven't painted models I think I painted 2. I painted in the last 4 years maybe. The last model that I really, really painted was for Matt Wilson's birthday. God, over 10 years ago now. The whole company painted a pirate's army for him, and everybody painted parts. And I painted a model for that. And that was the last time I actually painted a model. And it was the first time I had actually painted a model in some time.
I enjoy painting miniatures. I absolutely hate assembling miniatures. It's too fiddly, and I get frustrated. And then I enjoy painting until I look over to my left to see what she's painting, and I'm just
Yeah, an Elizabeth painting party is a lesson in humility because you're just sitting there I feel like I'm doing a good job because I spent 2 hours on this. And I look over at hers, and in an hour she's done 3 studio quality freaking minis compared to what I've been doing, and I'm just like, pardon me while I vomit blood for about 20 minutes.
And she's always so sweet and happy. She's like, it looks so good. But the doubt in yourself is like, stop patronizing me.
I think when
I
she
started-
said the phrase slapping paint, I was like, yeah, that's exactly what's happening there. I'm just slapping paint on this nightmare, and I hate myself.
When I started at Privateer Press, way, way, way back when in the before times,
Long ago.
I was among the first 5 or 6 people that worked there. I was walking around the building one day, and I realized of all the people in the building, the other people there were Brian Snowdy, who's a world-renowned artist, Matt Wilson, who's a world-renowned artist, Mike McVeigh, who's Mike frickin' McVeigh,
Yeah.
Jason Souls, who is a sculptor and a painter, and then I was like, oh, good, Kelly's not a super artist, he's the guy who ran the mold-making stuff. But watching him work makes all of that a lie. He's absolutely a super skilled artist. I mean, watching him work on molds is like watching people sculpt the miniatures, for that matter. I'm like, every single person that works in this company is a vastly talented human being, and I pick up heavy things.
I am strong.
And then we hired a new guy to help in the warehouse, and I'm like, yay! Mark, are you talented? Like, are you a painter or whatever? He's like, no, but I'm a writer. I'm like, I hate you so hard right now. Like, I thought I had an ally at long last, but no.
Well,
I
don't
still
think.
pick up the heavy things.
Well, so at least, Kevin, you could pick up the heavy things and find a mechanic into making it a fun game while you picked up heavy things.
That came later.
Yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, don't think that mentality doesn't stick with us talented folks. It's not like I don't sit around.
Imposter syndrome is universal.
Right. Yeah.
I don't. Like when I sat in Fort Wapple and I was sitting around watching these like contest-winning painters paint up their stuff, and even people who weren't entering stuff in the contest were painting 1 billion times better than I was. I was just sitting there like, I feel like such a tool. There
was a point when we were down there one night where it was like 8 or 9 people like patching up their crystal brush entries.
Yeah.
And a couple of those entries won.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So, like, it was just tables full of people patching up their paintwork, all of which is more detailed than anything I would even know where to start beginning to think about maybe doing.
Here's the thing that drives me crazy is then when you
talk
talk
to
to
sit
them,
there and shake the table every now and then. That's what I tried to do. I did not do that.
See, the thing that drives me crazy is when you
It's
talk
like
to some
fake
of these
sneeze.
people.
I just see Kevin, who are painting, he's like, oh yeah? Well, I lift things!
Oh my gosh, you're so strong! Yeah. Meanwhile, like, brushes just pelt you, like, god damn it!
Yeah. Be nice or I'll throw the table.
And that was the day Kevin died.
Yeah.
You got shanked 1,000 times by paintbrushes.
It's true. I would never do that. I have far too much respect for people who paint things.
Jessica Rich would murder you.
Yep, that's exactly what I was thinking.
It's true. She was one of the people who was freaking me out, though, because the one night she was looking at somebody's model and she was just
that would
swinging
work
it
this
around.
model.
And the whole
That would
time
work
I'm like,
this
I just
model.
have to go because I can't watch this. I can't watch it happen. Like, I'm always terrified of people. Like, I have watched an army get dropped before at a tournament, and there's no more terrifying, like, gut-wrenching feeling than, like, time slowing down and watching every individual piece fall off the tray in the air before it collides with the ground than that thing. And it takes like 10 minutes for like the thing to finish falling because time slows down so much, and you can't possibly move fast enough. And it's awful.
like, can I see your picture? Yeah, sure. And then they're like, oh, and dropped it, and like the gun broke off, and I was just like,
No.
So, first year I got to work on Crystal Brush. I was very new to the whole miniature side of things, and I'm doing the photography and stuff like that, and I didn't know about magnetized models. The pieces all magnetized together, and my good friend Curtis knew I had no idea about this either, and hands me this tray, like a squad of models, and I go to set them down to take a picture, and they all just like collapse like Legos. Like a house of cards. And I just had this look of shock, like I'm screwed, I'm fired, this guy's gonna murder me. I just wrecked his army, and Curtis. Then I stopped for a second and looked to my right, and Curtis just laughing his ass off at me. And I was like, "How do I fix this?" He goes, "It's magnets." I was like,
Was it you who was doing the photography at TempleCon the year with that guy's Kraken that the arm fell off on?
I have never been to TempleCon, so
No, I think it was there. They had a photographer who was there, who was helping us out with that, and he puts so it's like the crack. I think it's called the Kraken. I don't remember. It's the Crix, whatever colossal thing that's got the big tentacle arms, and the guy had magnetized the arms for transport, so he could take those arms off because they're these big spindly things. So he magnetized them so he could take them off for transport. Well, we didn't know that. So when he puts the model down, like he very carefully carries the model over to the table, and it touches the ground on the table, and both arms just go, boop, and just like drop down to the thing, and the guy's like, what did I do?
I know that feeling.
And I look at it.
I'm sure some jurors like, should have pinned it, man. Yeah.
Dude, I just
like,
lived
just take the picture and put it back. Pretend like it came that way.
It was like that. It was right. I didn't even do it. I'm just gonna leave.
Grant had a model at that one year that won. It was the award-winning model for that year, and when he took it back to the shop on the way to go back in the case where it's safe, it took a header and just disintegrated. It was like a Valkyrie, like the fighter for Imperial Guard. And it was great. It was gorgeous. The insides were painted of the cockpit, like the whole thing. And taking it home, putting it into the case, dropped it, and
That's rough.
Like, well,
it's
at least
like,
it won
Buddhist
first.
sand paintings, you know? Like, it's beautiful, it's a work of art, and then at the end of the day,
A stiff breeze, their whole day's work gone.
Yeah.
I actually had a moment recently where Jonathan and Elizabeth were over at my house. We were doing some board game testing for an idea we've got. And, I had my first studio painted mini from the new line, and I was so excited, and I was like, I think we were playing Mice and Mystics, and I was going to like use them as an alternative piece. And then my big stupid hands decided to pick up my mini, and I'm looking at them like, this thing looks cool, doesn't it? And then suddenly, because this thing it's a direct master copy of a 3D print that I just gave to Elizabeth because I was short on time before Adepticon. I want to get things shown off. So literally, it tumbles out of my hand, and it's exactly like Kevin said. It was 30 minutes of watching it fall to like classical music in my head. And it's just going down, and then suddenly it hits the ground, and I just hear...
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I hear the plastic snap in like 4 or 5 places, and I look down, and then I'm just like, no. And like Elizabeth comes over, and she's laughing. She's over at my desk painting, just like.
Well, that's because she already broke it once.
Elizabeth did already break it once.
Yeah.
Along with a crystal brush piece.
Yeah.
On the concrete.
That sound, by the way, the sound of an army falling to the floor,
You never forget that sound.
is the
That's
exact
like-
same sound that somebody hitting someone's shield in the SCA makes when it echoes from outside through the miniatures hall into the lobby at Kingdom Con. So that was terrifying because there's a bunch of guys from the SCA, because Ross is involved in the SCA, who come out and do demos and stuff. And they're outside in the back. In the space. So they're out there beating on each other in armor with sticks. Which is fine, because most of the time the doors are closed, so the noise doesn't come through. But inside the miniatures hall, somebody had opened the doors. So in the lobby where we were, we heard the sound come through the miniatures hall. So it sounded like somebody had just took a header into the tables. So much worse. I'm like, run into the room like, nothing's wrong, like what's even going on? And then I heard it again, and I'm like, oh, it's the SCA. I've never been so happy to hear a stick banging against a shield before in my life.
I'm getting anxious just thinking about this. Like, that is what deep-level nerds we are. Like, tiny, like, $10 plastic miniature falls and hits the ground, and we're just like, my life is
Everybody
ending.
freezes. It's like, you know, when you're at a restaurant and you just hear somebody, you know, they have that big tray and it just slides off and you just hear crash, 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 and everybody's like, you know,
What if that happened?
Like everybody just freezes. Like, oh shit, was that mine?
What if that happened at a
Terrible,
con?
terrible.
What if people dropped that shit and then everyone just started, like, slow clapping to them? Can you imagine the soul-crushing look?
Yep.
Oh my god.
It's like, been there, man. Been there.
So speaking of beautiful miniatures and exciting new things, one of the Kickstarters I'm quite excited about, many others are, is the new Dark Souls
Yes!
board game. I know I'm
I've been
backing
watching
it.
so much of that on Twitch.
The Dark Souls board game is quite exciting. It made $1 million in the first 24 hours, which is pretty ridiculous.
Funded in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Funded in 3 minutes. The miniatures look fantastic. So far, the only thing I'm questionable about is I was a little sad about the tiles.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much art from this beautiful universe, and the tiles are a little drab for my taste. But I'm hoping the gameplay mechanics will make up for it.
Yeah, that's kind of my thoughts too.
If I don't die in the first 5 minutes, I'm going to be really, really...
Yeah, I better die constantly in that board game. Like, it better feel like Zombicide
Won't live
with
up to
nothing
my
but frying
expectations.
pans.
You better flip the game tiles. That's what you
Right? Yeah.
in anger.
You've been invaded.
Just take out a hammer and start smashing your hero mini into the dirt, and you're like, this is what Dark Souls did to me. This is just...
I only got this game to return the favor game. You go into the hole in the backyard with the fire.
And as the game, I haven't got to look at the full gameplay video stuff yet, but it's 4 players. Do you guys know, is it fully co-op, or is
It's co-op.
It's all co-op?
Yeah,
Okay, I was curious
which is one of the reasons I really like it. I'm a super big fan of co-op games these days.
Yeah,
I am as well. I love the co-op dungeon crawler. Is one of my favorite types of games.
Yeah. Yeah, I would super rock a copy of Monster, except that I will never afford one.
It is Kingdom Death Monster is fantastic. It really plays like a DM-less role-playing game. I wouldn't so much call it a dungeon crawl because it's not really. You're not going from room to room. You kind of like travel, and then you get to your boss, and it's a big boss fight. So there's that. While Dark Souls seems more of a dungeon crawler instead of a boss fight mechanic, which I'm curious to see how many bosses they come unlocked. I think there's 4 bosses unlocked now with the Kickstarter, which is pretty exciting. I love the big guy with the sword, all creepy and skinny looking.
I'm curious to see how that works too, because those are also super expensive. Like the add-ons for the additional bosses are all like $30.
Yeah.
So
and
I'm
do you
curious
just
if
get
that's
miniature
just
and cards for that, or
right? Like that's a big purchase for $30.
Agreed, but
for a non-hobby product. For a non-hobby product.
I'm just trying to think, like, just with the scale of the actual miniature and the playability of it in there, I could kind of, like, I'll put it this way, if it came with a couple of bit more minis, and I think it comes with its own custom tiles, too. So I think that adds tiles to the actual game itself. So I'd be okay spending $30 on it. Agreed.
It just has to add enough component, right? Like if it's more than just a different boss, if it's going to add some kind of minions, or it's going to add some kind of gear or equipment or scenarios or whatever, so it's more than just one variation change. I mean, but because that's a high price point, like it really is, especially at the quantity that they're talking about for their initial sale. Like I know too much of the production side of things to not be judgy about prices.
Very true.
I think that's all of us. Is like we totally understand the numbers game involved with this, and it's like that cost them like $1.50
I know you're making that in plastic. I know that you're making at least 10,000 copies of those. I know that means.
Yeah, exactly.
And on and on.
The double-edged sword of working in the industry is you love it, but you get to see like, but this not really.
You can't unsee behind the veil.
Pretty much. Another interesting thing, though, is it depends because $30 may be a bit pricey for a miniature, but it depends how big are these dragons, though.
Only one of them's a dragon, but the dragon's super expensive.
It's $30.
I think it is as big as the Kingdom Death dragon. That's pretty big.
There's 2 expansions right now from what I remember, but honestly, this thing exploded overnight. Like it went from 30K to 60K to $1 million today. I saw that the first expansion is the Tooth Maw Dragon.
Yeah, I've got it pulled up right now. There's the Gaping Dragon boss expansion, Black Dragon Kala Meat boss expansion. So there's 2 different dragons, $30 a piece. The Guardian Dragons, there's 3 separate dragons, each at $30 a piece. And the 4 Kings boss expansion, which I'm guessing is 4 separate normal-sized guys.
Mm-hmm. All I know is that at like the $80 level, that thing's already paid for itself like twice over. Just
That
with
is true. You
expansions
are
and
getting a
minis
lot
and-
of extra stuff already for free.
So that's why I'm thinking I could see $30 for an expansion, like, or if it's one mini and then the boss cards, it doesn't seem like enough. But with how much I'm already getting from the Kickstarter itself, I can see putting up a little bit more money for like my favorite boss, because most Dark Souls players have a boss that they're like, oh my god, this one was terrible. I want a mini of it.
I'm hoping
Sure.
for more, like looking through the stretch goals, I'm hoping for more creepier monsters to fight than just like Dark Knights.
Yeah, some
the
more
background,
some
like,
more creepy
different
minions
poses of
would be
guys in
nice.
armor. I want some more like creepy, gross stuff.
Just Bloodborne werewolves that spit fire.
Yeah, Bloodborne.
Yeah,
It's at 1.5 million right now, by the way.
1.5?
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
God.
So what do you guys expect? What do you
Well, with
think
all the
what do you
Dark
think we'll
Souls
get
3
to?
hype, it's timed really well.
I'm sorry. No, it's already converted. They did, I think, their thing originally.
Yeah, it's at 1.57 right now.
It was originally done in euros,
Mhm.
but
course it
Kickstarter
was.
automatically converts.
I think this will. My prediction is probably 3,000, maybe 2.5 to 3. What do you got? Not 1,000 million. Sorry.
The amount of backers?
1,000 million. I'm not
No,
familiar with that
I think
number.
it'll make $3 million.
Is that in
or
metric?
$2.5 million.
$1,000 million. You know that board game that made $1 billion on Kickstarter?
Exploding Kittens?
billion dollars.
Oh my god.
It's very successful.
So they're already printing at least 15,000 copies of this game right now because they have 12,000 backers.
That's crazy.
And they've
That
actually
is a
done
hell of a
something really
launch.
smart.
yeah.
You know, because from working with an industry and most of us being involved in Kickstarters, at least Kevin and I have had the experience of working with Kickstarters and Heath, and they're doing something really smart with the retailer pledge levels, which is something you're seeing more and more of these days because retailers are becoming more and more against Kickstarters from big companies because they're not getting the sales from their stores. But now they're doing retailer pledge levels where the retailers get to get multiple copies of the game at a distribution cost. And they're getting retail-only stretch goals, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, I remember seeing that, and there was about 5 seconds of being like, this is bullshit. They get their own stretch goals. And then I immediately thought, this is for, like, if I was a retailer, that's exactly what I would want to hear. Like, I'm getting a certain amount of copies for the game, $30 cheaper per copy than anyone else, that I was getting certain expansions that are coming to me for free. Yeah, it makes sense. So after that, I think as outside this industry, I would be a little bit more frustrated with that, but being in it, I looked at that and was like, okay, logical, got it, I'm on board.
Well,
I get the mistake.
if we all want, to keep game stores popping up in our areas and people to have fun and get to have local places to play their games, we've got to support our local friendly game store.
But I think doing that in Kickstarter just dilutes what you're doing. It makes things more complicated for you on the back end, which makes it more probable for things to get messed up.
What do you mean?
It's more moving parts to deal with. And I think you should do something for retailers, but I think what you do for retailers should be detached from the Kickstarter system.
I can see that.
Have retailers, so they should do what they're doing, but they shouldn't do it through Kickstarter because it's just...
The only person I think it really hurts is the distributors.
And the distributors... I would do the same thing with distributors, right? Like, we pushed that at CMON when we were doing things there, was like if you ran if you committed to a certain buy-in point as a distributor, then we would make exclusivity things for you or whatever it was. I don't remember now.
Yeah.
So we had those deals, and I think running those deals through the proper channels is the right thing. The biggest reason is that Kickstarter is a point-to-point communication. It is the manufacturer talking to the end user. And putting another point of communication in there only muddles the message and makes it harder for you to communicate plainly. Because the way you're going to talk to a store and the way you're going to talk to a consumer isn't the same.
That's very true. It's very, very true.
I don't think that... I think people should definitely support their stores. From the manufacturers should support their stores, but they should do so the way they already support their stores. They don't need to do so in some weird piggyback method. I just don't think it helps as much.
I'm also another Kickstarter that I'm quite excited about that I'm backing. I'm sucking it up and having to back 2 different games. But one's not nearly as expensive. Is Santorini, if you guys have seen anything about that.
I'm excited for that one.
I haven't heard anything about it. Tell me.
Santorini is super adorable game. It's supposedly actually a pretty old game that this guy has been bringing around to cons for a while. And he's never just had the way to actually start making an actual polished, nice project. And it's a game where you're all playing like different Greek gods building the city.
Oh,
and
yeah.
super simple, where like you literally just move your chibi character and then add a building piece. But the presentation of the game is so pretty. Like you actually have like this full 3D like island, and then there's these different stacking blocks that build the different cities, and you're each playing different gods with different abilities, and it's very simple. And the presentation,
there's depth
like
to it, right, Jonathan?
Yeah.
There's strategically, strategically, there's depth to the
Yeah,
game.
it seems like it's one of those games. It's super easy to play, but you can get good at. Kind of like one of the things I like about Rivet Wars. Rivet Wars is very easy to just pick up and just play with a 10-year-old, but you and your buddy can get super in depth and really out strategize each other.
That's because it's a phenomenal game.
Master. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
many successful games follow that concept.
Rivet Wars is probably one of my favorite CMON products.
It is a fantastic game, and I wish it sold better. I think one of its points that hurt it is it's a little pricey for a 2-player game. I think that's what most people look at it, and just it's hard for someone to drop $100 on a game for only 2 players.
Yes and no. I think the biggest problem it has is that nothing new's come out.
Yeah.
There's been no new content.
You have a ton of extra stuff you can get with it, though.
Right, but that's all content from the Kickstarter. There's been no new content.
That's true, and I think that's due because they haven't.
Relic Knights suffered through the same thing, right? When Relic Knights launched, it had a year's worth of new releases, but those new releases were all the Kickstarter releases. And you have to support your active player base, not your up-and-coming player base. So you have to release the new content. I think you'll see, if CMON releases another Rivet Wars expansion, I think you'll see a reinvigoration in that space. But if you don't support your product, why would you expect your players to support it?
It's true. It's very true.
This is why I like talking to Kevin, because Kevin brings in some logic that I would never have processed. So divine Kevin bringing the sunshine. No, it's just it honestly is fascinating to hear, especially from like starting a new company, because I've read enough and I've done enough and I've seen enough that I understand the basics of, I know a product, I can make it look pretty, and I want to provide it here. But hearing like the actual in-depth, like, oh, you can build a company, great. How do you make it continue or support your customers or get it from A to B?
That's where most Kickstarters, well, there's 2 places most Kickstarters fall down. One is not accounting for shipping. Not accounting for shipping has sunk more Kickstarters that were very successful than anything else. And 2 is, what do you do now? I saw a guy, he posted he posted a question in a Kickstarter group that I'm in Facebook. He said, so I fulfilled my Kickstarter, I did all the stuff, but I have like 600 copies left. What do I do with those? And people were like, well, I don't know. You reach out to distributors, try to get your product into the market, you see if it's something that, like, was your plan just to make it and be done? Like, I guess doing one-off products is fine, but, like, you sell your bloody product. Like,
you try to get more people to buy it. It's the Kickstarter is a launching point. You got to get it to have longevity.
But a lot of people don't think that far through. The other place that's super fun to ask people is like, okay, let's say your product is, you're making an RPG book, something simple, right? And it's really, really successful. Out of nowhere, you sell 5,000 copies. It's phenomenal. It's great. Super successful. So you print 10,000 copies because it gets you a really good break on your print line. So you do that, and then 10,000 copies of your book show up to your house in a truck with no lift gate on pallets. What do you do?
It sounds like that happened.
In tarps.
Not on purpose. The truck was sent where it was supposed to go. But but I've unloaded a lot of trucks without lift gates, full of heavy
It's not
things like
fun.
metal and paper, which are pretty much the two heaviest things you could ship.
Yeah, like I'm imagining a pallet full of books is basically like 100 tree trunks stacked on top of each other.
Between 28 and 3,500 pounds, depending on the paper.
Do you have a power loader?
No, but I've pulled a lot of those up some ramps. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
I remember, speaking of, it's actually a convention that's going on right now, is PAX East. It was 2 years ago at PAX. We had, we were using our pallet jack to get the stuff off the truck and then loading it up into the area. But at PAX East is a very high union area in Boston. And so we get all of our stuff. Oh, I should actually back up. The year before that, we were at PAX East, and we brought our pallet jack into the convention and brought it behind, kept it behind our booth with our stuff, which ended up become taken by the union there, thinking it was their pallet jack. At the end of that convention, we talked to them, and they were understanding, and they gave us a pallet jack. It wasn't the same one, but it was a pallet jack to use to get our stuff back on a truck. The following year, we bring that same pallet jack back to PAX East, and they see us using this pallet jack, which just so happens to have their company like initials engraved into it. And they're like, "Oh, you guys didn't pay for this pallet jack," and they took the pallet jack from us. Even when we tried to explain they gave it to us the previous year, we probably shouldn't have brought the same one, but we didn't realize it had the company initials on it. So we ended up unloading all the stuff off the truck, and then they took our pallet jack. So we had all of our contents and supplies on pallets just in the parking lot with no way of getting them into the building.
That's a rough breakdown or setup.
So we had to. Luckily, we had 2 road cases and some Saran wrap.
Oh,
We had to.
Well, you were
Stretch
prepared.
wrap is basically magic.
Yeah, so we would. Spencer and I would go to the booth with a road case, take everything out of the road cases, and then run them back to the parking lot and pack as much stuff on and inside and around this cart as much as we could, and then wrap it up, and did several trips back and forth until we could finally have the pallets back inside. It was a stressful time.
That's rough.
Oh my god.
You can confiscate our pallet jacks, but please, can we just
Yeah.
give us just a little bit longer?
PAX East is a very fun show. It's just the union stuff can get very stressful when you're trying to set up or anything like
yeah.
that. But I understand the union. I'm not complaining about unions. It was just a stressful situation for that one time.
Well, especially when you don't know what's happening.
Right.
It's true.
You know, like the first time a floor boss literally threatens you is a unique and eye-opening experience.
No, I literally
Thank you, New York.
Yeah, I was in Boston. I'm like, no, you can't take my pallet jack. And then I had 5 very large dudes standing around me saying, no, we're taking this pallet jack.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
And I was like, well, I could get my ass kicked for a pallet jack. I don't get paid.
It's over my pay grade.
Yeah.
When a guy tells you that he needs a union electrician to come and plug in your cash register, and you look at him and he says, "You're joking, right?" And he looks at you dead in the face and says, "I think you know what I'm talking about. You pay the union electrician to come plug in your register." To his credit, that union electrician did the best job I have ever seen anyone do.
They'll plug the
in
fuck out
all
of
of my years. Not only did he plug the thing into the thing and tape it down, but he taped it down flawlessly. Like, it was perfect. It was the best job. If every job that ever got done for me by anybody at any convention center was done as well as this guy's job, nobody would care.
You just take them for $80.
I'm paying for all of the
Would you like a
services that they
job?
provide.
Yeah,
Like-
$80. Mm-hmm.
It was the same show where the guy walked up to help because in that convention center, if you had if your booth required any tools, which meant any tools, like if it was a bar that you used as a lever, nope, that's a tool. Then a union guy had to help you, and the guy comes over, and it was for tear down at this point, and we've done this a lot, so we know the deal, right? As soon as the person shows up, he gets a handler from your staff whose job is to keep him busy, whilst we do all of the other stuff that we can do without his help and get everything done as fast as possible. Because if it becomes 1 hour and 3 minutes, we're paying for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So we need to get done as fast as possible. And the guy walks up. He's like, "Hey, is this the booth?" And we're like, "Yep." And he's got a cigarette in his mouth. And
Hey, it's just a booth.
my buddy is like, he's like, "Yep." You guys like, "Yeah, all right. We're gonna go over here. And we're gonna do this thing." He's like, "Cool." And as they were like walking over to where where the work is that they're going to be doing, he kind of goes a little bit off to the left, flicks the cigarette into the corner of the floor because we were by one of the walls. So he just flicks it across the floor into the corner, comes over, and then busted his ass. Like, he was amazing. But that moment of this dude walking up with a cigarette in his mouth in the convention center,
No fucks were given.
like, this is amazing. Everything about this trip has been great. We got threatened by a foreman for a cash register, and then the guy who came and did the work was awesome, and then, like, another dude walks up to do some work, smoking a cigarette in the middle of the building, who then just threw it. He didn't even put it out. He just threw it into the corner, like, ah.
I'm on the clock, man.
And then he busted his ass. It was great. It's like, man, I want everybody I work with to be as awesome as these guys are. I wouldn't care, as opposed to other places where it's like, please stop breaking my stuff. No, I don't care if you've been doing this for 10 years. You're literally breaking everything you touch.
I'm watching you do it right now. Stop it. Stop that.
They're like, no, I'm doing it right. No, you're actually doing it wrong. I just told you you're doing it wrong. You're still doing it wrong.
Well, it's running a little long now. The show's been awesome. I want to thank everybody, each and every one of you, coming out and being on the show. It'll be awesome. But we have one more thing I like to do, starting with my last episode, is we're going to do a short round of Super Fight. And I think player number 1 is going to be Mocha.
Uh-oh.
You.
I'm bad at arguing on the spot. I'm a little worried. Okay. Who am I?
All right.
Who am I?
I have faith in you.
That
you
makes
are
one
a
of us.
samurai.
Ooh.
You're a samurai
Okay.
riding a flying narwhal.
Oh.
Samurai riding a flying narwhal.
Okay.
Versus Heath, who is now a T-Rex with cannons instead of hands.
Oh.
Which one of you would like to go first? Last time I only gave each person one statement, like one argument to make. You can each get an opening argument and an ending argument. So you each get to go twice. Who would like to go first?
I will let Mocha go first.
Oh, okay. I was going to be like, I'm totally... Okay, all right. So I'm riding a narwhal. I'm a samurai. So not only do I have basically a lance, I also have my katana. So I have 2, assuming that I don't have more than just one katana. Yeah, I'm basically like a flying projectile that can skewer you before you even have a chance to shoot me with cannons, and assuming that my narwhal, which flies, can go around your cannons and has good agility. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that I could dodge those cannons, and it's not like the T-Rex is actually going to have a lot of range of motion with the cannons. So, like we've got this happening. Like, no, my narwhal is going to kick your T-Rex's ass. Bring it.
Alright, that's Mocha's opening argument. Heath, Mr. Cannon Hand T-Rex.
T-Rex with cannon hand.
I figured it was only fitting since you have like a baby dinosaur behind you right now.
Yeah. I got little Koopa hanging out here with me. I got to win it for Koopa.
I have a dinosaur head.
Yeah, you do.
So why would
They're
a T-Rex
dinosaurs
with cannon arms win against a samurai on a flying narwhal? Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop your argument right with the flying narwhal being fast.
Okay.
Narwhals are from aquatic temperature waters, so
I
generally
was
they're going
hoping
to be...
you wouldn't catch that.
I'm doing a game about animals that wear armor in fantasy classes. I know something a little bit about narwhals.
Darn.
I mean, I'll give you the fact that it's got the horn, and I'll give the fact that it's a samurai, one of history's deadliest warriors. But A, you're going to be a giant, slow-moving air target, and B, I'm even going to let your samurai have a bow and arrow in this scenario. I am a 30-ton ancient creature with cannons for arms. A, the arrows aren't going to go deep enough into my skin because I am the T-Rex, clearly. I'm 30 tons yet again, so even if I can get you off the narwhal, all I got to do is step on you, bam, victory. You will be crushed in your little leather and metal suit, and then the ancient weaponry. Yeah, like no matter which way I think about it, I'm actually trying to like partially argue this for your side, but I can't.
Thanks.
I literally would just crush you, eat you, have skin too thick, and then let's also bring up cannon arms. Okay, limited range, agreed. No, just I gotcha. Don't worry about it. But all I really got to do is find the right rock to angle up on to really get like the high angles or low angles in there. I'm fairly sure with cannon arms and the big jaws, I get you pretty easy.
This T-Rex is good at geometry.
Evidently. Solve for X.
Bertha,
Oh, shit. All right.
your response. Last statement.
All right, last statement. You might be huge and 50 feet tall and be able to crush me, but let me remind you that your brain is the size of a walnut. So you might have great, well, not so great range of motion, but you're not going to be able to think fast enough to actually aim at me. So my flying narwhal, let's say he's not going to be the most dexterous. He's going to help me land on top of your head, and because I am the epitome of discipline and accuracy, I'm going to take my katana and just right into your skull, into your brain, and you're dead.
All right. Under that scenario, yeah, I probably would die. However,
Uh-oh.
I am an ancient primordial beast that was the top of the food chain. Even if we go the Jurassic Park route and say his vision's only based off of movement, you're still a samurai on a giant flying narwhal. A, you'd probably be smelled from a distance, and B, however slow the narwhal is flying, I still think there would be a bit of visual acuity to actually go like, yep, that's a flying narwhal. That looks like a giant flying snack wrap. I'm going to go get it. So, under this scenario, I think the T-Rex would smell or see you while you're coming forth, unless the samurai is somehow jumping from such a height that he gets the drop on the T-Rex. And then in that scenario, the samurai's going to probably die as well. I will accept either a tie under ridiculous circumstances or victory.
All right, so
Well played,
Elizabeth,
sir. Well played.
where's your vote?
I think when Mocha was like, I'm gonna just stab the T-Rex, I think that sold it. I think that sold it. I think since you're so large, Heath, you'd have an issue kind of catching up with the samurai because he's so tiny, and he just like crawl on you, right? Like you said, jump on your head. You can't see him. You have little arms. What are you gonna do?
Samurai in full armor is agile enough to then crawl up.
Well, to be fair, the argument's over. She's just casting her vote.
No, that's fine. You vote however you want, but me thinking
It's
you're
like
right.
the rip-off
is
samurai
my
armor, like.
She said suddenly she's
It's
a
anime
ninja.
samurai
Hey,
armor.
Yeah.
the argument's
Super heavy, but it's
argument's
not
done.
relevant.
The argument's done. Pencils down, kids. Pencils down.
So I'm
Death
gonna
belt
have
for
to
the
go.
samurai armor.
I'm gonna have to go with narwhals. I'm sorry, Heath. Our family crest is narwhals and buttholes, so.
I drew your family crest. I know
I know.
exactly what it is. The second he said narwhals and it wasn't for me, I was like, I'm screwed. Like, I have to do T-Rex with cannon arms. Like, of course the range of motion's bullshit.
Any other day.
All right, Kevin, what's your vote?
My vote is for the T-Rex for one reason. I was offended that you didn't make any reference about the narwhal being the ocean's unicorn, and had an easy out with any kind of magical direction. So I'm going to go with the T-Rex and massive amounts of black fire.
You're
Fair enough,
voting
fair
against Narwhal on a principle.
Captain Silver Linings comes through with another solid logic. You didn't make it into a sea unicorn. That's why you didn't win.
Lesson learned. I will endeavor to do better next time.
Always choose magic.
Jonathan, you're the tiebreaker.
It always comes to me. Always comes to me for the tiebreaker for some reason.
Because you picked the order.
Well, yeah, but it's never like two people already chose something before it gets to me, and I don't have my vote doesn't matter at that point. But I'm going to have to go with the samurai because I think a samurai can kill a T-Rex. I think there could have been more said about the narwhal. I agree with Kevin. The narwhal could have been put to a little bit better use. There's a lot of magical things the narwhal can do. I would also think the narwhal would most likely get blown out of the sky by the T-Rex with the cannons. I would agree with that. The T-Rex would probably would shoot the narwhal out of the sky, but I think the falling samurai would stab the T-Rex in the head.
I want to argue this so bad, but I know it's already over.
It's over. It's over.
I tried to be your advocate. I tried hard.
Sorry, it failed.
My narwhal lore is very weak. I'm like, first of all, we're fighting on land. We just assumed that we were fighting on land.
It's a flying narwhal, so you're assuming
I mean, it could have been on a ship in the water, and then the T-Rex is just boned. What is he gonna like dog paddle? Like, oh guys.
No, he's got no hands. He's got cannon arms.
Yeah.
Can't swim with a cannon arm.
Yeah, you could have just said with a narwhal and just launched him into the water and he was screwed.
Yeah, the narwhal was definitely at a disadvantage.
So, this does mean, Mocha, we'll have to have you back on again, because now we have 2 winners of Super Fight, which means soon we'll have to have you with your samurai riding a flying narwhal versus Brian Steele's Viking with a beard made out of bees.
Oh boy!
We should have a loser fight too.
So that will be one of the little finals tournaments we have here on the Tabletop Hangout. Anything you guys want to add about things coming up or you're excited about before we end the show? All right then.
No, we don't.
We kind of talked about everything that's going on. Thank you all for being on the show. It's always super fun. Next week we're actually going to be at Kingdom Con during this time, and I was talking to Ross and we were talking about doing a all of us together in the same room with just a camera on us and just talking shop at a table. We'll see how that goes, and then we'll see how it works. So we may have an episode next week for you guys watching. Well, we'll see how it goes. Everyone have a great time. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you all for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you for having us. Have a great time. Are we still